Hello again, I'm JC Brown, an MLIS Public Libraries candidate via Wayne State University School of Library and Information Science. Today is World Read Aloud Day. What's that, you ask? Well, it started 3 years ago by a nonprofit organization called Lit World. Lit World's World Read Aloud Day is an awareness day advocating for literacy as a right that belongs to all people. World Read Aloud Day motivates children, teens, and adults worldwide to celebrate the power of words, especially those words that are shared from one person to another. By raising our voices together on this day, we show the world's children that we support their future, that they have a right to read, to write, and to share their words to change the world. Today I'm going to read imperfectly several poems from Shel Silverstein's book, Where the Sidewalk Ends. Will you take a moment to read aloud today? Pickle me, tickle me too. Went for a ride in a flying shoe. Hooray, what fun! It's time we flew, said Pickle me, tickle me too. Ickle was captain and Pickle was crew, and Tickle served coffee and mulligan stew. As higher and higher and higher they flew, tickle me, tickle me too. Pickle me, tickle me too. Over the sun and beyond the blue. Hold on, stay in, I hope we do, cried tickle me, tickle me too. Pickle me, tickle me too. Never returned to the world they knew, and nobody knows what's happened to dear tickle me, tickle me too. One sister for sale, one crying, spying young sister for sale. I'm really not kidding, so who'll start the bidding? Do I hear $1, a nickel, a penny? Oh, isn't there one kid who will buy this old sister for sale, this crying and spying young sister for sale? Oh, I'm Dirty Dan, the world's dirtiest man. I've never taken a shower. I can't see my shirt, it's so covered with dirt, and my ears have enough to grow flowers. But the water is either a little too hot or else it's a little too cold. I'm musty and dusty and patchy and scratchy and mangy and covered with mold. But the water is always a little too hot or else it's a little too cold. I live in a pen with 5 hogs and a hen and 3 squizzly wizards who creep in. My bed and they itch as I squirm and I twitch in the cruddy old sheets that I sleep in. If you looked down my throat with a flashlight you'd note that my insides are coated with rust. I creak when I walk and squeak when I talk, and each time I sneeze I blow dust. The thought of a towel and some soap makes me howl, and when people have something to tell me, they don't come and tell me, they stand back and yell it. I think they're afraid they might smell me. The bed bugs that leap on me sing me to sleep, and the garbage flies buzz me awake. They're the best friends I've found, and I fear they might drown, so I never go too near a lake. Each evening at 9, I sit down to dine with the termites who live in my chair, and I joke with the bats and have intimate chats with the cooties who crawl through my hair. I'd brighten my life if I just found a wife, but I fear that never will be, until I find a girl gentle and kind, with a beautiful face and a sensitive mind, who sparkles and twinkles and glistens and shines, and who's almost as dirty as me. 18 luscious, scrumptious flavors. Chocolate, lime, and cherry, coffee, pumpkin, fudge, banana, caramel, cream, and boysenberry, rocky road and toasted almond, butterscotch, vanilla dip, butter brickle, apple ripple, coconut, and mocha chip, brandy, peach, and lemon custard, each scoop lovely, smooth, and round, tallest ice cream cone in town, lying there, sniff, on the ground. A long time ago, when the earth was green, and there were more kinds of animals than you've ever seen, and they run around free while the world was being born, and the loveliest of all was the unicorn. And there were green alligators and long-necked geese, there were humpy-bumpy camels and chimpanzees, there were cats and rats and elephants, but as sure as you're born, the loveliest of all was the unicorn. But the Lord seen some sinning, and it caused him pain. He says, stand back, I'm gonna make it rain. He says, hey, brother Noah, I'll tell you what you do. Go and build me a floatin' zoo. And you take 2 alligators and a couple of geese, 2 humpy-bumpy camels and 2 chimpanzees. Take 2 cats and rats and elephants, but as sure as you're born, Noah, don't you forget my unicorn. Now Noah was there, and he answered the callin', and he finished up the ark just as the rain started fallin'. He marched in the animals 2 by 2. He called out as they went through, hey, Lord, I got your 2 alligators and your couple of geese, your humpy-bumpy camels and your 2 chimpanzees. Got your cats, rats, and elephants, but Lord, I'm so forlorn, 'cause I just don't see no unicorn. Old Noah looked out through the driving rain, but the unicorns were hiding, playing silly games. They were kicking and splashing in the misty morn. Oh, them silly unicorn. Then the goat started goatin', and the snake started snakin'. The elephant started elephant, and the boat started shaking. The mouse started squeaking, and the lion started roaring, and everyone's aboard but the unicorn. I mean the green alligators and the long-necked geese, the humpy-bumpy camels and the chimpanzees. Noah cried, "Close the door, 'cause the rain is pouring, and we just can't wait for them unicorn." And the ark started moving, and they drifted with the tide, and the unicorns looked up from the rock and cried. And the water come up and sort of floated them away. That's why you've never seen a unicorn to this day. You'll see a lot of alligators and a whole mess of geese. You'll see a humpy-bumpy camels and lots of chimpanzees. You'll see cats, rats, and elephants. But sure as you're born, you're never gonna see no unicorn. My skin is kind of sort of brownish, pinkish, yellowish white. My eyes are grayish, bluish green, but I'm told they look orange in the night. My hair is reddish, blondish brown, but it's silver when it's wet. And all the colors I am inside have not been invented yet. I'll sing you a poem of a silly young king who played with the world at the end of a string, but he only loved one single thing, and that was just a peanut butter sandwich. His scepter and his royal gowns, his regal throne and his golden crowns were brown and sticky from the mounds and drippings from each peanut butter sandwich. His subjects were all silly fools, for he had passed a royal rule that all they could learn in school was how to make a peanut butter sandwich. He would not eat his sovereign steak, he scorned his soup and nightly cake. He told his courtly cook to bake an extra sticky peanut butter sandwich. And then one day he took a bite and started chewing with delight, but found his mouth was stuck quite tight from that last bite of peanut butter sandwich. His brother pulled, his sister pried, the wizard pushed, his mother cried. My boy's committed suicide from eating his last peanut butter sandwich. The dentist came and the royal doc, the royal plumber banged and knocked, but still those jaws stayed tightly locked. Oh darn, that sticky peanut butter sandwich. The carpenter, he tried with pliers, the telephone man tried with wires, the firemen, they tried with fire, but couldn't melt that peanut butter sandwich. With ropes and pulleys, drills and coil, with steam and lubricating oil, for 20 years of tears and toil, they fought that awful peanut butter sandwich. And then his royal subjects came, they hooked his jaws with grappling chains, and they pulled both ways with might and main against that stubborn peanut butter sandwich. Each man and woman, girl and boy, put down their plows and pots and toys. They pulled into crack! Oh joy! They broke right through that peanut butter sandwich. A puff of dust, a screech, a squeak, the king's jaw opened with a creak. And in a voice so faint and weak, the first words they heard him speak were, "How about another peanut butter sandwich?" My dad gave me $1 bill 'cause I'm his smartest son, and I swapped it for 2 shiny quarters because 2 is more than 1. And then I took the quarters and traded them to Lou for 3 dimes. I guess he didn't know that 3 is more than 2. Just then came along old blind Bates, and just 'cause he can't see, he gave me 4 nickels for my 3 dimes, and 4 is more than 3. And I took the nickels to Hiram Combs down at the seed feed store, and the fool gave me 5 pennies for them, and 5 is more than 4. And then I went and showed my dad. He got red in the cheeks, and then closed his eyes and shook his head, too proud of me to speak. Sarah Cynthia Sylvia Stout would not take the garbage out. She'd scour the pots and scrape the pans, candy the yams and spice the hams, and though her daddy would scream and shout, she simply would not take the garbage out. And so it piled up to the ceilings, coffee grounds, potato peelings, brown bananas, rotten peas, chunks of sour cottage cheese. And it filled the can, it covered the floor, it cracked the window, and it blocked the door, with bacon rinds and chicken bones, drippy ends of ice cream cones, prune pits, peach pits, orange peel, gloppy clumps of cold oatmeal, pizza crust and withered greens, soggy beans and tangerines, crust of black burned buttered toast, gristly bits of beefy roast. The garbage rolled on down the hall, it raised the roof, it broke the wall. Greasy napkins, cookie crumbs, globs of gooey bubble gum, cellophane from green bologna, rubbery blubbery macaroni, peanut butter caked and dry, curdled milk and crusts of pie, moldy melons, dried up mustard, eggshells mixed with lemon custard, cold French fries and rancid meat, yellow lumps of cream of wheat. And last the garbage reached so high that finally it touched the sky, and all the neighbors moved away, and none of her friends would come to play. And finally, Sarah Cynthia Stout said, "Okay, I'll take the garbage out." But then, of course, it was too late. The garbage reached across the state, from New York to the Golden Gate, and there, in the garbage she did hate, poor Sarah met an awful fate that I cannot right now relate, because the hour is much too late. But children, remember Sarah Stout, and always take the garbage out. I have a friend who is a giant, and he lives where the tall weeds grow. He's as high as a mountain, as wide as a barn, and I only come up to his toe, you know, I only come up to his toe. When the daylight grows dim, I talk with him way down in the marshy sands. And his ear's too far away to hear, but he still understands, he stands. I know he understands. For we have a code called the Scratch Tap Code, and here's what we do. I scratch his toe, once means hello, and twice means how are you. 3 times does it look like rain, 4 times means don't cry. 5 times means I'll scratch you a joke, and 6 times means goodbye. Goodbye. 6 times means goodbye. And he answers me by tapping his toe. Once means hello, friend. 2 taps means it's very nice to feel you scratch again. 3 times means it's lonely here, with my head in the top of the sky. 4 taps means today an eagle smiled as she flew by. 5 taps means, oops, I just bumped my head against the moon. 6 means sigh, and 7 means bye. And 8 means come back soon, soon, soon. 8 means come back soon. And I scratch 1,000 times, and he taps with a babbity bim, and he laughs so hard he shakes the sky. That means I'm tickling him. Listen to the mustn'ts, child, listen to the don'ts. Listen to the shouldn'ts, the impossibles, the won'ts. Listen to the never haves, then listen to me. Anything can happen, child, anything can be. Hector the Collector collected bits of string, collected dolls with broken heads and rusty bells that wouldn't ring. Pieces out of picture puzzles, bent up nails and ice cream sticks, twist of wire, worn out tires, paper bags, and broken bricks. Old chip vases, half shoelaces, Gatling guns that wouldn't shoot, leaky boats that wouldn't float, and stopped at horns that wouldn't toot. Butter knives that had no handles, copper keys that fit no locks, rings that were too small for fingers, dried up leaves, and patched up socks. Worn out belts that had no buckles, electric trains that had no tracks, airplane models, broken bottles, 3-legged chairs, and cups with cracks. Hector the Collector loved these things with all his soul, loved them more than shining diamonds, loved them more than glistening gold. Hector called to all the people, come and share my treasure trunk, and all the silly, sightless people came and looked and called it junk. If the world was crazy, you know what I'd eat? A big slice of soup and a whole quart of meat. A lemonade sandwich, and then I might try some roasted ice cream or a bicycle pie. A nice notebook salad, an underwear roast, an omelet of hats, and some crisp cardboard toast. A thick malted milk made from pencils and daisies, and that's what I'd eat if the world was crazy. If the world was crazy, you know what I'd wear? A chocolate suit and a tie of eclair. Some marshmallow earmuffs, some licorice shoes, and I'd read a paper of peppermint news. I'd call the boys Susie, and I'd call the girls Harry. I'd talk through my ears, and I would always carry a paper umbrella for when it grew hazy, to keep in the rain if the world was crazy. If the world was crazy, you know what I'd do? I'd walk on the ocean and swim in my shoe. I'd fly through the ground and I'd skip through the air. I'd run down the bathtub and bathe on the stair. When I met somebody, I'd say, goodbye, Joe, and when I was leaving, then I'd say hello. And the greatest of men would be silly and lazy, so I would be king if the world was crazy. He rode through the woods on a big blue ox. He had fists as hard as chopping blocks. 500 pounds and 9 feet tall. That's Paul. Talk about working when he swung his axe. You could hear it ring for 1.5 miles. Then he'd yell, "Timber!" and down she'd fall for Paul. Talk about drinking, that man so mean that he'd never drink nothing but gasoline. And a 5-gallon can is a little bit small for Paul. Talk about tough. Well, he once had a fight with a thunderstorm on a dark, cold night. I ain't saying who won, but it don't storm at all round here, thanks to Paul. He was 90 years old when he said with a sigh, "I think I'm gonna lay right down and die, 'cause sunshine and sorrow, I've seen it all," says Paul. He says, "There ain't no man alive can kill me, ain't no woman round can thrill me, and I think heaven just might be a ball," says Paul. So he died, and we cried. It took 18 men just to bust the ground. It took 24 more just to lower him down. And we covered him up, and we figured that was all for Paul. But late one night, the trees started shaking, dogs started howling, and the earth started quaking. And out of the ground, with a "Hi, all," come Paul. He shook the dirt from off his clothes, he scratched his butt, and he wiped his nose. "You know, being dead wasn't no fun at all," says Paul. He says, "Up in heaven they got harps on their knees, they got clouds and wings, but they got no trees. I don't think that's much of heaven at all," says Paul. So he jumps on his ox with a "Fare thee well." He says, "I'll find out if they's got trees in hell." And he rode away, and that was all we've ever seen of Paul. And the next time you hear a timber yell, that sounds like it's coming from the pits of hell, then a weird and devilish ghostly wail, like someone's chopping on the devil's tail, then a shout, a call, a crash, a fall. That ain't no mortal at all. That's Paul.